Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our panel, which is Balancing the Scale, Gender Equality in Politics. We were with politicians before, and now I have the pleasure to be with Josie Christodoulou, the Commissioner of Gender, and Stella Mourouzidou Damtsa, who is the DEI Officer of CFA and a stakeholder. I don't think they need further analysis on who they are, but whoever is not interested in listening to us, I would kindly ask them yes, so that we can continue our panel and conversation. So, I'm trying to be kind. I'm honored to guide this important conversation on gender, on equality in politics. I am a man, and I have opposite me two female who are succeeding in their field. However, I'm not sure if there is gender equality in politics and whether this is being balanced at all. Today, we will discuss, we will open dialogue, we may be provocative as well. Josie and I had in the past luck to be controversial in conversations, but I think this is what creates new ideas and what transforms. I will start with what I consider the core of this panel. Gender equality isn't just about presence. It's about meaningful participation. Without full DI inclusion, political representation remains incomplete. If politics reflects only part of society, it will never serve the whole. So this afternoon, let's move beyond just counting seats in the parliament, on the panel, on the chairs. Let's talk about quotas, legal safeguards, pipeline development, and cultural transformation. And I will start with Josie Christodoulou. What three systemic barriers do you think still block the equitable political participation? And if you could fix just one in the next 12 months, what would that be?
Interesting question, Stefanos. And may I just add, yes, because we had discussions with Stefanos in the past. I think that's what makes democracy, and I think it's important that people who disagree agree to disagree in order to move on as a country. And I think this is all about democracy. So thank you for our previous discussions, for the present discussions and future discussions. You mentioned that numbers are not important, but they are important, but I think when we talk about gender equality, we need to talk about essence and substantial equality. I do believe that indeed statistics are there and they show us something, and if I may, before I answer your question, I think it's important to underline these stats. Because when we talk about equity, not equality, that's why we're talking stats. What we see is that currently there are in the government 37% ministers and deputy ministers are women, and I think it's the first time that we have this number. But what we see where we lack, and this is according to the European Institute for Gender Equality, is at the parliament. We have a 14% the presence of women in parliament, and 0 when it comes to European Parliament. And it's very low in local authorities as well. So although it is a statistical error, at the same time, what we are missing is the representation of the other half of the population. And when we are lacking the experiences of the other half of the population, it means that we don't represent in total women and men.
So the one thing for the next 12 months Also as a
It
commissioner?
cannot be one, and I will tell you why. It should be a holistic approach, and it should be worked at the same direction in different levels. This is why I had recently met with all political party leaders, and we tabled a few suggestions. With the main question was, what did you do throughout the years so that you don't look now for women to complete the ballots? Yeah. And there are many suggestions in order to do that. Yeah. And I will go. I will number them, yeah? First, we need to reconcile family and professional life. But in order to do that, it's not only the responsibility of the government, it's the responsibility of all. This is why I suggested that the parliament, they work together, all political parties, and create nurseries for children, yeah? We have also suggested the political academy for women and young people, because we see that women and young people are not interested in politics anymore. So what do we do to attract more women and young men, young women in politics? Yeah? The third one is, how do you secure a safe environment in the parliament? And not only in the political arena, I would say. We see sexism, we see sexual harassment, so hate speech, etc. And we do see in social media that it's out of control, everything is very, very toxic. So women who are less risk takers than men, why should they risk their careers, their family life, their health, if you like, in order to enter politics? So if we don't work in the same direction to correct everything around, and we're just fixing a part at a time, I'm not sure we will make it.
I keep one word that on one of our first meetings was intersectionality. And it's a word that it's very important, especially given the differences that we see between male-dominant professions and female-dominant professions. Now, my question comes to you then, my dear Stella. From your perspective, as a DI of the chair of CFA Society Cyprus, which practices in the financial and investment sector can help build the leadership pipelines for women in finance and politics? And what systemic barriers should we eliminate?
Thank you, Stefanos. It's an honor to be here with you today. Let me start by saying that according to CFA research, diverse teams have better results. So it's not a matter of doing something social without profit, because a lot of companies say we need to see the bottom line, but the bottom line is actually proven, and we see that teams that are represented and they have women and other minorities, they make better decisions, they manage risk more effectively, they drive innovation, and consequently they drive profitability. So this is something that has been proven. On the other hand, I don't want to throw statistics, but I will, because it's a way to make my point. According to Eurostat, 37% of managers in Europe are women, and the figure for Cyprus is 19%. The gender pension gap in Europe is 29%. In Cyprus, it's 39%, which means that a woman who also lives longer than men, I'm sorry to say that, but it's also statistics, has to make her pension and her provident fund last longer. So it's really great that we are talking about these issues today. And to go to your question, I have two pillars to answer it. The first one is our mentorship program. We have a mentorship program in the CFA Society. This, what does it do? One woman helps another woman. And it doesn't have to be, ladies, it doesn't have to be formal. Reach out to any woman you admire and ask her for a coffee. It doesn't really have to go through this structural process. But we have it as a process, so it's there, so that we build a pipeline for new women, younger women, to come into finance, to come into managerial positions, and also, why not, C-suite positions, because especially in Cyprus, we don't see a lot of those. And the second that I would say would help enormously, and Josie already mentioned it, is the legislative reforms. Because politics and the private sector need to work together. So what do I mean? I mean the Pay Transparency Act that is coming into force in 2026. It's a directive, a European directive, and we expect it to pass into our legislation in 2026. What does this do? It gives access to people to know how much your peers, people who do the same work, are paid. So if there are differences which are large, they can be disputed. So it provides visibility. And the other, for pensions, because women take career breaks or they go on maternity, they stop paying into their provident funds. There could be a legislation to mandate pension contributions from a very early age. So these two, I think, would make a lot of difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add?
Of course.
Because she made excellent points. When it comes especially to pension gap, I think it's important that I want to add something. First of all, it's so high because the gender pay gap was so high as well a few years ago. If we eliminate the gender pay gap, pension gap will also be eliminated. And at the same time, the Minister of Labor, he's now creating a group for us for the pension, for the new pension policy that the government wants to undertake, and the gender aspect will be part of it. So I just wanted to add that. And Stefan, I'm sorry, but I need to add something. One more information, which is crucial.
Okay.
It's another directive.
I will be the judge of that.
It's another directive that we are ready to transpose in Cyprus, and it's with regards quotas in listed companies. So this creates also a precedent for us that we can use for other issues as well. So I just wanted to
No, it's
mention
okay.
this. Yeah.
You're again jumping the queue because maybe it was part of your next question. However, it passes, it throws the ball back to me. Now, I love the idea that we are in sync, and coming from two esteemed persons like you, make me think, how do we redesign these political institutions so they don't just do quotas, they don't just, put pipelines, they don't just have these panels. How can we create them to, welcome diverse leaders and actually ask diverse leaders to create new systems, not fit in old systems. Because I think the issue that I personally see, and you may disagree, is that we have the old systems, and what happens? We try to, find a way to help create new systems. And we had a very nice conversation the other day. You were saying about, the women, the kids. Where are the kindergartens and at the big firms? You just said it. You were juggling. Where were you today all day? Work and family. Why is that burden on the women? And why isn't the society and the male partner, or the partner, if we're talking about same-sex families, are not there in this situation? I believe personally that we have to stop treating representation as assimilation. It's an assimilation. Too many times we have seen institutions to invite difference on the surface. Let's do a DEI program, let's have it there, but require conformity underneath. The spaces remain rigid. We talked about whistleblowing. And whistleblowing is not working in Cyprus, it seems, at least in some organizations. it is male-coded, and believe me, I am male, and I've been there, and I've seen the privilege I have as a male in businesses. So instead of fixing individuals to fit the outdated system, my experience showed we need to fix the system to reflect the full range of lived experiences, especially those shaped by gender, race, color, disability, ethnicity, class, or sexual orientation. So this gives me, the next question I wanted to ask you. How can quota policies be designed to include women? And these women, or any other person, now I mentioned before, any minorities, how can quota policies be designed, and you mentioned them before, and other underrepresented groups while avoiding tokenism?
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more with you. I don't know if we need to fix the system or we need to change the system and the narrative. Because you're so right that if we don't dismantle the stereotypes, if we don't dismantle the patriarchal system as it stands, then we're just fixing part of it. So it's not only about making spaces and making, quotas to have. I do believe in quotas and I will fight for quotas, but quotas by themselves will not work. So you need, again, these other policies on the side. That's why I mentioned the holistic approach before. Yeah?
And εδώ θέλω να, I want to add something in Greek and I want to translate it in English as well. Είναι η αποδόμηση των δομικών διαφορών.
Construct systemic
For me, it's the ultimate way forward.
Yeah, but this is the most difficult part. This is the most difficult part because it's a system that has been built throughout the years. And I see the Swedish ambassador here as well. And I very often say that, Cyprus is under Turkey, above Egypt. It's been only established in 1960. We're not near Sweden or Denmark. So culture is important. And to be honest, Stefanos, Cyprus is changing when acceded the EU. Yeah? We can see the change, but it takes time. And this is why we need to transform it. This is why we need to work closer together.
We need synergy.
We need synergies. We need civil society. We need entrepreneurs. We need trade unions. We need
government.
The media. I'm coming to them. I represent the government. So it's policy making. Civil society is what I call the sandwich method. You need the top down. You need the bottom up in order to squeeze and move forward.
Thank you. I'll ask another question and then we will close because I am getting some looks. So, many organizations make public DEI commitments. I mentioned it before. How would we measure real impact beyond statements, and should private sector efforts align with public goals? Because it was just mentioned by Josie.
I'll start with the second part. I think definitely public and private should work together. Otherwise, we cannot go anywhere. In order to measure the effect, I'm going to outline the 6 principles of the CFA Inclusion Code, which we invite firms to adopt. The first one is broadening talent pipelines. One way CFA does that is to affiliate with universities. So we go to the universities where young people are. We have an affiliation with the CFA. We enter the curriculum. I see nods. I'm glad it resonates. So young ladies see that this is something I can do. This is aligned. It resonates to my values. I'm going to be happy there. It's a myth that ladies cannot do technical things and cannot do maths. Actually, we're very good at
mechanical or technical things, right?
Yes. So ladies, as well as gentlemen, we are multi-talented. It depends on the person, not the gender. The other one is inclusive hiring without biases, and I don't mean gender only. I mean political, religious, skin color, whatever.
Without
sexual orientation, whatever.
Any person, irrespective of their characteristics. Yeah.
Yes. So you should actually hire someone based on their merit, not based on their gender or anything else. Equitable promotion and retention, so companies need to report how many people they promote and whether these people come from minorities, whether they're women, whether they're men, how can they retain them. So like ESG metrics that we have on the platforms like Bloomberg and Workspace and everything, there should be metrics measuring inclusion so that investors who decide to give capital to these companies can make a whole-rounded decision, because it's not only based on numbers, it's also based on these policies. And young people, and very good for them, they value these things more than what my generation in younger times did. So I really admire young people, and I applaud for them and for the way they are thinking. External influence, activists, shareholders, you need to go to the AGMs of the companies that you buy shares and speak your mind, so be active. And of course, transparent measurement, so what I already said, publish your figures.
So, you know that we're probably three elitists sitting here, okay? And I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Privileged, okay. Then we're all three privileged. So let's get out of this privileged, nice, beautiful conversation we've done and face the truth. We've seen political leaders dismantle DEI programs. I'm not going to mention names, but Donald Trump did. We see this with Bolsonaro or even Putin. We've seen the alt-right rising, and that may means similar positions. What do these patterns reveal? Because, you know, they weaponize this and they call it divisive, elitist. Yes, Donald Trump called us elitist, the people who do DI, and anti-patriotic. Here is a hard question. How do we challenge the myth of leadership as male, forceful individualists? How we replace this with a new narrative? How we become inclusive, collective? How do we use synergy? And how we come to a result where these reforms, which will be fragile, will not break down within the next 2 years or half a year, depending on the elections?
I'm not sure I agree with the way you're posing the question. I would say that sometimes we also need to have some self-criticism, because it seems that we also failed, or we didn't proceed as much as we should have, or we said that when it comes to DEI, we just did ticking the boxes without substantial change that it will keep us going. So perhaps that we should revisit our own values and principles and redesign and recreate our narrative, change the narrative towards the direction we want to go. I think this is now an area that we're going through, and I think we have to fight it. But at the same time, we need to do our own self-criticism and recreate and change our own narrative. I understand that this is our final comment, so, and sorry for this, I just wanted, because you mentioned in the beginning women and other minorities, you also said that. I want to underline something. Women are not a minority. And we need to stop treating women as minorities, because the way we're putting it out there, it's like the men and all other groups of people. Actually, it's men and women can be, you know, disabled, can be from other ethnicity, sexual orientation, etc., etc. So we need to stop treating women as a minority. They are the half of the population, and start treating them as such. Thank you.
Okay, I would say that Trump actually did what you said, but he also said that he favors meritocracy. So what does this say? This says that actually DEI was created to enforce meritocracy in the first place. So I think he didn't really hurt DEI, but he made it even more valuable, because it shows that he doesn't really understand what DEI stands for. So DEI stands for meritocracy, and Trump said that he favors meritocracy. So I think my closing statement, just one line, I think that every one of us, in our daily decisions, in our daily choices, we should open doors, share knowledge, and challenge biases. In this manner, each and every one of us will make a difference.
I totally agree. Thank you both. And what I will say something Angela Davis said. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept.